Good morning all. Welcome to the session of DBMS ER model. In the previous session, we discussed about the lot many things about ER model. We discussed about why this ER model, right? Basically, it requires, or we can say it's a basic step of a database design process, right? So here we'll design a high level database structure, right, in terms of ER notations, where it consists of entity types, attributes, and relationship types, right? For all such things, it's having its own way of syntactic notations, right? So that we have discussed. Then after that, we discussed what is meant by entity type, then entity set, and and we compared this ER model to an object-oriented concepts, right? So how a class, the class name as what we'll give, it represents an entity type, and we can say the instance of a class, how we call by name an object in object oriented concepts. Here we call by name an entity, right, where each entity shares that all common attributes which are all attached to that entity type, right? So that we have seen. Then after that, and each entity is having their own values under each attribute, right? So that we have seen. Then after that, we entered into an entity set. What is meant by entity set that we have discussed? It's a collection of entities, that's it, right? Set of entities we can call, where all attributes share their own values for each of the attributes, right? So they share a common attribute, we can say, right? Fine. So then what is meant by an attribute that we have discussed? Attribute, actually it is mainly used for describing an entity type, right? So this is what we have seen. Then after that, or we can say it's a property of interest. It's a property of interest as what we collect with respect to an entity type, right? As what we have identified in the set of, in the scenario of requirement, right? So that we have seen, especially in a database application. Then after that, we discussed about attribute types. There we discussed what is meant by simple attribute, single valued attribute, multi-valued attribute, right? So then after that, we discussed about what is meant by stored attribute, derived attribute, complex attribute, right? Composite attribute, all such things we discussed. So we'll try to call with a short time, right? So first one we discussed about a simple attribute. An attribute where in which we cannot further divisible, right? So then such kind of an attribute we call by name a simple attribute. That means that itself is the most simple component we can call, right? Then after that we discussed about a composite attribute. What do you mean by composite? So the name itself suggesting something, giving some clue for us. What is that? It is composed of many minute things, right? Here, minute things means minute simple attributes, right? A composite attribute is one, an attribute where it is composed of many simple attributes. Or we can say an attribute can be further divisible into multiple simple attribute components, right? So then such attributes we call by name composite attribute. We took small example like address, where address contains many minute components like city name, village, country code, something, pin code, then taluk, district, state, such kind of a thing, right? Then after that, we discussed about single valued and multi-valued. Single valued, name itself is saying it takes only one value, then such attributes we call by name a single valued. For example, blood group, which is an attribute which is identified in a employee or a student table, right? So there we can call it by name where it takes only one value, right? Most of us will write only one value for that, right? So that we call by name a single valued attribute. Then a multi-valued attribute. Could be possibility that phone number kind of an attribute. Most of the time we'll go for writing a multiple phone numbers, right? So such kind of attributes we call by name a multi-valued attribute. That means an attribute with respect to an entity where we can go with writing a multiple numbers, where it takes more than one values, right? So then such attributes we call by name multi-valued attribute, right? So then after that we discussed about a stored attribute and derived attribute, right? So stored means what? An attribute which is stored, but it's of a simple attribute kind, right? So and from the stored attribute where we can derive a one more attribute, right? We can derive a value of another attribute, right? So then such attributes we call by name as stored and as well as the multi-valued attribute, right? So that means attribute value in which we will derive, then the derived value of that attribute that we call by name that belongs to a family of derived attribute, and from which we derived based on that some stored attribute value, then such attribute we called by name stored attribute. And we took a small example, like suppose if we know the date of joining in an employee entity type, then definitely we can compute, we can find out, we can derive the value of what is the year of experience of that employee in that organization, right? Definitely we can derive it, we can compute it. So example, if I know the date of birth in a student table, definitely we can find out what is the age of that particular student, right? So that we can compute of any entity, right, in any entity type. Then after that we discussed about a complex attribute, what it means, where it is a mixture of a multi-valued and as well as a composite attribute, right? So then such attributes we called by name a complex attribute. That means an attribute which can be further divisible, where one of the component in that in that division is of multi-valued kind, right? So then such attribute we call by name a complex attribute. For example, if I am having an address, phone number kind of an attribute, where an address in the address column where user has written a multiple phone number along with that many components of that address values, for example city, pin code, state, district, also things, along with that has written 2 phone numbers, right? So during the time that becomes a complex attribute, right, with respect to any entity, right, in an entity type. So this is what the few things we discussed in the previous session. Then guys, in the today's session we'll try to discuss about a few more things. Prior to that, there could be a few books, they consider the few more attributes like key attribute and null valued attribute, such kind of a thing. Key attribute is one where based on that attribute value we can easily uniquely identify each entities in an entity type, right? So then such attributes we call by name key attribute. Example, in a student entity type we call by name USN is a key attribute, right? So then we discussed about a null valued attribute, I think, right? So an attribute where user will not always fill a value for that attribute, right? So it's not mandatory attribute sometimes, right? We could have some applications, few things which are not mandatory, right, you know. So then such attributes we call by name a null valued attribute where user can fill even a null values, it permits a null values also, right? Fine, guys, in the today's session we'll discuss about the continuation things of that ER model. Our major intention of learning this ER model is to we discussed about entity type and things which are connected to this entity type or entity, entity set, then entity type, right? So those things, it's all related to entities. Then after that we discussed about attributes, then attribute types. Now and we discussed about the notations used for each and every attribute and as well as an entity type. For entity type, what is that? Rectangular box, right? Then for attributes, oval shaped symbol we'll discuss, and for each type of attribute we'll make use of different kinds of notation, right? For key attribute, that attribute name will be underlined. Then after that, for a multi-valued attribute, we'll make use of a concentric oval shaped symbol, elliptic symbols, right? The symbol. Then after that, we discussed about a stored and derived, that will represent it with the help of a dotted line, then a line with a dotted elliptic symbol, right? So that we have discussed especially for a derived attribute. So and composite attribute, we shown that the derivation, we shown that that division, right? So how an attribute can be further decomposed, right? The decomposition we have shown, and how it is composed. Many simple simple attributes, how it forms one composite attribute that we have seen, right, with help of an address example in the previous session. So guys, in the today's session, so there are a few more notations very much required, especially in drawing or in designing any ER diagram for any requirement scenario, right? So now guys, what is that? We'll try to discuss in the today's session. The one more interesting notation where it is very much required for an ER model construction is, ER diagram construction is a relationship type. basically before knowing about the relationship type, we should know, as almost these definitions also almost similar to this entity type, entity and entity set, because here also we are having a relationship type, relationship and relationship set, right. So we'll discuss about what is meant by relation. Basically relationship, a relationship represents how two entities are associated with one another. It describes the relationship between the two entities, right. If any entity, or we can say if any relationship, basically relationship describes the relationship between the two entities, or we can say how they are associated with one another, right. So by using this relationship, right, so that we call by name a relationship, right. So and the set of relationships, that means basically relationship represents an instance of a relationship type. How we said this entity is an instance of this entity type. That means entity type, it's a name given to an entity set, we call by name an entity type, right. So collection of entities that forms an entity set, and we have to give some name for that, right. So the title, right, so that we call by name an entity type. Here also same thing, the name given to a relationship set we call by name relationship type, right. And basically it connects the entity types, that's it, right. It describes the relationship between the entities which are participated, right, in a relationship type, right. So then we are having here also relationship where it is a minute component, as how we are having an entity here. Entity is an instance of entity type. So here relationship is an instance of a relationship type, right. And there could be many relationships as a set, right. So as a collection, right. So then such collection or a set of such relationships, we call it by name a relationship set. Here we used that rectangular box, right, to represent an entity type. Here for a relationship type, we'll make use of a diamond shaped, or we can say a rhombus shaped symbol, right. So with the help of this, we'll represent a relationship type. So within that, we'll write a name for that relationship type. For example, guys, let me say, I said basically the purpose of this relationship is to join, or we can say is to connect that entity types, right. So here, how can I represent an entity type, guys? To represent an entity type, the notation used is this rectangular box, right. So let me go with writing two rectangular box. Yes, have written, right, and it is connected by one relationship type. I said it connects, right. So this is what the basic notation, where exactly an ER diagram that relationship plays a role. That means where exactly it present in an ER diagram, and where exactly that entity types are present, right. This gives such simple idea for us. So within this diamond shaped symbol, we'll write a relationship type name, and here we'll write an entity type name, that all we have seen in the previous session. We'll take one small example how these two entities, we'll try to give some example, or we can say add some names to these empty boxes, including this diamond shaped box, right. So we'll try to create one small example. Let's say, guys, so I am doing one student management system where we are having a student. What that student management or a college school management system consists of is, in the previous session we said students are the entities we can identify, right. Teachers are the entities, or branch, right. So definitely branch also entity type as what we have identified. Then after that we discussed about the subjects, right, what that students studies, so all such things becomes an entity type. Let's say we'll try to take any such sample of that entity type, and we'll try to build a relationship type, how these entity types are connected with one another, right, having what sort of relationship with one another, right. We'll take up students studying in some branches, definitely let's consider a branch might contains many students, right. A branch can contain many students, but a student always just to one always belongs to only one particular department, right? Only one particular branch. Let's consider, guys, here in the right hand side I am having a branch where branch can be described by using an attribute. That means a branch can be described as with the help of an attribute called a branch ID, branch name, and possibility that a branch might have well seen that the HOD, and each branch is identified based on branch ID. So for that, what's the notation we have used? The notation used for a key attribute, because this is what an attribute where it helps us in distinguish between the each entities of this branch, right? Each branch, right? So based on this ID. So for that we'll underline it. So it is an indication that it's a key attribute. Now after that I said student. Student is a one more entity type. So now we'll try to build a small relationship between this student entity and the branch entity. Let's say each branch, let's say for example CS, IS, MCA, MTech, something. I'm having plenty of branches in a college, let's assume. Then each branch will become what? One instance. Let's assume this is an instance related to MCA and this is an instance related to MBA, right? Like this. Then this represents a CS branch. So many instances here I am writing. These are all the few instances, and collection of this instance, entity instance, that represents what? A entity set, or we can say a branch set, right here. Then here also there could be many students, right? N number of students we may have, right? N number of branches, like that. So each student, let me call by name S1. S1 represents some student. We'll try to describe first student, right? So first, what are the interested attribute or the properties of the student? Student might have what? USN. With the help of this only we'll identify each student, Let me go with underline it as an indication that USN act like a key attribute in a student entity type, right? Fine. Then after that, what? Student having a name, Yes. Student having a name, yes. After that, what? Student having some blood group, right? Something will record. Then student having, let's say, multiple phone numbers, so that multi-valued, right? Also things we can have it, fine. Even if you want, you can add few more attributes, address as composite attribute and all. It's left to you, possible that we can do. Let's, for timing, we'll assume these are the few attributes we have identified with respect to the student, and these are the few attributes we identified with respect to a branch. So there could be always a relationship between each instance of a student. That means here, let me write S1 related to that USN1, and it belongs to some Rakesh, right? So, and his blood group is O positive, phone number some dash, right? So we might have many things. Then S2, this is related to a student called some Ajay, like that. Then S3 something. So many instances we are having. Now I want to create this S1, I said belongs to some Rakesh. So Rakesh belongs to which branch? Definitely he belongs to some branch, And one more, I'm having a MCA kind of a branch. Could be possibility that we might have plenty of students who are all studying in this department, right? So in this branch. So for that, this is connected with having a relationship. That means with this instance of this MCA, there could be many instances from this end connected, right? That we need to show it. That we need to represent it. How these set of entities are connected with the entities of this set, that we have to show. That can be described with the help of this relationship type, right? So relationship. So I said we are here we are having an entity set. So entities and entity set that we have shown here in both the cases. And I said we are having a relationship. It's a minute instance of this relationship type, right? And we are having a set of such relationships, right? Because this S1 might belongs to this MCA. Let me draw one line. And is that only S1 belongs to Rakesh, only a student present in MCA? No, there could be possibility that some Raghu also might belongs to this MCA. So for that, what I'll do is I'll go with drawing a line which is connected to this same instance, right? So that means the same MCA in the same department, there are two students. Suppose if two students are studying, then we'll connect these two student instance to what? To this MCA. So for this, these two instances connected with this MCA, so for that automatically here it creates one relationship instance. And let's assume S2 belongs to this MBA. Let me draw with different color. And even this creates one more separate relationship instance that I'll represent it with different color, or you can call it by name. This is R1 instance, this is R2 relationship instance, and this is a R3 relationship instance. Like that, I might have n number of relationship instances. So definitely there are, it's looking like a collection of relationship instances, you know, and this we call by name. This is what I said. This is what each instance is a relationship, and collection of these instances, this we call by name what? Relationship set. This represents this relationship and how they are connected. Student belongs to branch, right? Let me call by name. This is belongs. Student belongs to branch. I said, as part of this, there are two instances connected with one department. Right? Could be a possibility that we might go with drawing a few more lines with few more instances. And never a student belongs to more than one branch, but a branch can contain multiple students. One branch can contain what? Multiple students. But a student always belongs to only one branch. This we are representing with the help of these relationships, and that we are representing especially most of the time with the help of the mapping constraint that we call by name cardinality ratios, right? And participation constraint that we'll take up. Prior to that, it's all about this relationship. Basically, what it describes? It describes the relationship between the two entities, right? So how they are connected with one another, how they are actually associated in the relationship type, right? So that can be represented with the help of this relationship type, right? Fine. So we added one more thing to the completed bunch, right? To the set of our the topics in which we have completed, right? To that bunch we have added. Now I am with one more thing. So we said there are different types of attributes. In the same fashion, do you have any categories with respect to these entity types? Yes, guys, we are having different kinds of entity types. So now let me introduce you the types of entity types, or we can say the categories of entity types. Basically, we are having only two types of entity types. One is a owner entity type, or we can call it by name a strong entity type. There is a one more name we are having. And second one is a weak entity type. Let me go with discussing about what is meant by this strong and what is meant by this weak entity type. If any entity type having a key attribute, we know that the attribute, key attribute, what is meant by it? An attribute which can be, a key attribute is one where it helps us in distinguishing the tuple, or we can say the entities in an entity type, right? So it's a major attribute that helps us in uniquely identifying each entities in an entity type, right? Suppose if an entity type, if it is having such attribute, such kind of a key attribute, this is what? entity type symbol, suppose could be possibility that we might have plenty of attributes. For example, if I am having a student kind of a table, student kind of an entity type, and let's assume we have identified an attribute like USN, name, and let's assume date of birth, kind of 3 attributes. There we'll identify this USN as a key attribute, right? So with that easily we can identify uniquely each instance, each student instance of the student entity type. That means this entity type having at least one key attribute, right? Then the student entity type we called by name what? Owner entity type or strong entity type, because it's having a key attribute, right? Very easily we can, with the help of this attribute, easily we can distinguish or identify uniquely the tuples, or we can say the entities of this entity type, right? Fine. What is meant by weak? Strong here, and exactly opposite to that. It's definitely it is giving some clue for us. What is that, guys? It is, we said key attribute is present, right? So presence of key attribute. Entity type with key attribute, but here what? No key attribute. If an entity type, if it doesn't have any key attribute, then such entity type we call by name weak entity type. Always we are representing a weak entity type with the help of 2 rectangular boxes, right? 2 rectangular boxes, concentric rectangular boxes, right? And we'll write a name for this weak entity type, and even this also we might have plenty of attributes of, it could be of simple attribute, single value, derived, composite, any kind, but it doesn't have any key attributes. It's an indication that then how these instances will be identified. Definitely this kind of question comes to our mind. Okay, fine, weak entity type is one where even this also consists of plenty of attributes, but in that attribute list we should not have any key attribute, right? This is what only constraint we should have, we must have, especially in describing a weak entity type. It should not have any key attributes, that's it. And one more, definitely one question rises in our mind, right? So what is that is, then how these instances of this, because if any entity type, whether it might be a strong entity type or it could be a weak entity type, it's a collection of entities only, right? Then how these weak entity type instances, right, weak entities we can call, right? So how this will be identified? Who will identify? Then how can I distinguish the instances of this weak entity type? That question arises in our mind, right? So for that the answer is, once if it is not identified by itself, then definitely it requires what, guys? Someone else to identify, right? So here also same thing, since we don't have any such a specific attribute like key attribute to identify the instance of this weak entity type, then what we'll go is, we'll take the help of an entity type where it is having a key attribute. Now can you tell me, guys, an entity type which is having a key attribute, then we call it by name what? We call it by name, it is a strong entity type, because key attribute, right? So here also same thing, guys, we'll make use of one strong entity type where it can have a key attribute within it, right? Then such strong entity type help will take in identifying the instances of this weak entity type, right? So then definitely these two identifying means always there could be a relationship between this strong entity type and as well as with this weak entity type. Then don't think that, sir, you have written only one attribute. No, I can have some more, as many attributes as you want, you can draw it, right? So possible, you can have it, many things. And always both the strong and as well as weak entity type, right, both should be connected with one another, especially with the help of what? Relationship types, right? Here also let me go with writing one relationship type between these two, where it connects the strong entity type with this weak entity type. Then the attribute of this strong entity type, or we can call by name, it's a owner entity type, especially at this context, right? And this key attribute will make use to identify the entities of this weak entity type we said. So we'll try to give one small example, and prior to that, one more interesting thing we want to call is, and how this especially in this scenario, in the previous scenario we have shown that two strong entity types are connected with one another with the help of a relationship type. Example, we took what a student belongs to a branch, right? So there student having a key attribute, student entity type also having a key attribute, and branch entity type also having a key attribute. But here guys, these two, we'll try to take small example like employee having a dependent, right? Employee having a dependent. Let's assume I'm having an employee kind of an entity type. So employee having dependents like father, mother, rights, their kids, right? So all such things. Then father, mother, wife, all such things becomes what guys? They are dependents of this employee. Dependents. They don't have any identity here, and we cannot identify these dependents uniquely, right? So dependent, to identify this dependent instance, what we require? Let's assume dependent name, dependent having an address, something, those things have recorded. But each dependent instance as what we are having in this weak entity type are identified with the help of this what? Employee entity. That means how each employee is identified? It is based on the employee ID. Each employee in the organization, how we identify? Based on employee ID. Could be possibility that we might have a repeated names, we might have a repeated addresses, right? But we may not get this repeated employee IDs, right? With the help of this employee ID, because this employee ID only can helps us in identifying, oh, this a dependent belongs to which employee, right? So that we can identify. So what's the relationship type name we can give here? Employee having dependents having, right? So employee having dependent we have written. And one more, so especially when a weak entity type connected with a strong entity type, right? So then such relationship type notation will write it in a different way, right? So same rhombus symbol only, but to show that here there is a part in this relationship type, there is a participation of weak entity type with a strong entity type or a owner entity type, right? So to show that, we'll make use of this relationship type notation with the help of these two diamond shaped symbols, right? So rhombus symbols, right? And this relationship type we call it by name identifying relationship type. This we call by name identifying relationship type. And always one more thing, most of the time this in case of a weak entity type participation with the help of this identifying relationship type having a total participation with a strong entity type, then definitely all my friends having a question, what is this total participation? Then here we have written a 2 lines and here we have written a single line. Now I will tell you, and exactly this is called by name a participation constraint. That means participation constraint is one where it indicates so whether all instances of a particular entity types are associated, or is there any few entities which are left out, that means which are all not exactly participated, right? Not connected, not associated with the relationship, with another entity type through any relationship type, right? So here guys, if I am having a dependent means definitely all are connected to either any one of the employee of this employee entity type, So for that we said that means all dependent instances are identified with any of the things, that means with any of these employee entity type instances. So for that all dependent instances are associated, participated, right? So for that, once if all instances are participated, we call by name total participation, right? So here there could be possibility that few employees may not have any dependents, right? So during that time we call by name there's a partial participation, because if an employee, if it doesn't have any dependents, what we can call, we'll draw any line where it is associated with this dependence. We'll not go for drawing any line, with the help of this relationship type. So for that, during the time, this we call by name a partial participation, right? It's all about participation constraint. What exactly participation constraint? What sort of information it gives for us? It gives an information for us, like that means whether all instances of this entity type are associated or not, right? So that's it. Once if all are associated, that means connected with this entity type with the help of this relationship type, then during that time we call by name, it's a total participation. All are participated, all are associated, all instances are connected, right? But here, once if it is all are participated, if at least one is left out, then during the time be called by name what? Partial participation. That's it. So let me go with drawing it in terms of a set theoretic notation, so that the things could be more clear for us. Let's assume, guys, past participation constraint. Example, let me redraw on the same diagram. So below that, let me write the same thing. Let's assume this is employee, or you can give any example, no issues. Having dependents. I said every dependent is connected with at least one of the employee, but all employee doesn't have a dependent. This is what assumption we assumed at this point of time. So employee is an entity type that can be represented with what? One employee set. Let's assume here we are having many instances like employee E1, E2, E3, E4 and so on, and we are having a dependent set here. Let me call by name, this is D1, D2, D3, D4 and so on. There are many things. We can have n number of dependent instances and n number of employee instances. So even for this relationship type having, even for that also we need to draw one relationship set, because this also might consist of many relationship instances, might have. Let's assume this R1, R2, R3, you can give any name, no issues, Rn till Rn. Let's assume this employee, we said an employee can have any number of dependents, right? And dependent always belongs to only one employee, right? One employee can have n number of dependents. Later we'll take up what is 1n I have written. Definitely I'll take up in once after this participation constraint example. Exactly, it is an indication that how many one instance of this employee connected with n instances of dependents. That means many instances of dependents entity type. That's it. So one instance connected with what? Any number of instances. One connected with, let's assume D1 and D2, let's say father and mother of this employee E1. How can I show? That's it. One instance here connected with what? More than one instance. More than one, or it could be sometimes one also. But here what? Any number. One connected with any number, right? N number of instances we can have. Most of the time multiple instance we can call, right? This is what our assumption. N represents a multiple instance. It might connected with n number of instances we can call. And here, let's assume, guys, with R3 have written having only one dependent and E3 having one dependent connected with this relationship instance. Let's assume after this I don't have any instances of dependent, only I am having a D1, D2, D3 and D4, only 4 instances. Let's assume here I am having few more E4 and E5. Look at this set, guys. Look at this set, especially dependents entity type set. Here we are having 4 instances, and all 4 instances are connected with this employee type instances, these employee instances, one or the other way, right, with help of this relationship instances. All are connected, all are participated, right? So for that, this kind of participation, nothing, no one is left out here, right? So all instances are participated, and this kind of participation we call by name what? Total participation. And this total participation is shown with a notation in the ER model with the help of what? Two lines. Two lines indicates, so all instances are associated, participated here with this entity type through this relationship type. But what about this one, guys? There are E4 and E5. These two instances are not at all associated or connected with this dependent instance. There are few things left out, look at this one. There are few things which are left out here, right? So this is a partial participation. If any one instance, if it is left out, then such participation we call by name what? Partial participation. Right. So here, how can I show? Basically, it is what we said, a weak entity type. Let me draw it with two rectangular symbol, weak entity type, and here what? A strong entity type. I'll show it with the help of what? Identifying relationship type, right? And it is always having what? A total participation with a weak entity type, always having a total participation with a strong or owner entity type. And owner entity type always having what? Key attribute. I said employee ID. Then employee having a name. Those things. You can have few more, no issues. Let's assume here dependent having a dependent name. Sometimes with the help of dependent name, suppose till we don't have a similar kind of a name as what we have recorded, till it comes, till that we can consider partially as a key attribute. I can identify, but once if that entry, let's assume some Raju kind of a dependent name I have recorded, till that Raju is not present in that entity type, right, in the table. So till during the time we call by name, oh, I can identify based on these dependent names, because we don't have any dependents with these names. That means each dependents are if it is identified based on a dependent name, but it doesn't always gives a guarantee that that relationship what it is building, as what we are achieving. That means as dependent name as a key attribute where we can identify each person, each dependents uniquely, that may break down at any point of time, right? So then such keys we call by name partial keys, and this that means partial key is one where for that particular moment of time we can have it, but it doesn't always gives a guarantee that with the help of me you can identify the instances uniquely, right? So that doesn't give any such a guarantee, right? For timing we can assume this as a key attribute, right? But it is not a permanent, or we can say a guaranteed key, right? It doesn't give any such kind of assurance, 100% assurance, right? So then such attributes are represented with a different notation in the ER model, and it is with the help of what? Dotted lines, right? But here what? Solid line for key attribute, and this, if any attribute if it is underlined with a dotted line, then that we call by name partial keys, right? Partial keys. Let's assume, don't think that it's a key. We're assuming for time being as a key, that's it. But it's not a key. That's it. This is all about weak entity type, identifying relationship type, total participation, right? So all such things, right? Could be, I think you are clear with the notation and as well as the concepts, I think, right? So let me move on to one more interesting topic of this ER model. And that we call by name a mapping constraint. Constraint, most of the time it gives some meaning for us. That means there is some restriction, there is some rule, right? Here also this constraint talks about how each instances of an entity type are connected with the other entity type instance in what manner, right? That means in terms of number we can call, right? Example guys, we are having actually first we'll try to list out the different types of mapping constraints we are having. that we basically we call by name, it's a cardinality ratio. This mapping constraint basically contains participation constraint and as well as this cardinality ratios. And participation constraint we have completed total and partial. Now I am taking cardinality ratios. There we discussed total and partial. Total participation, partial participation. Then here we are having in the cardinality ratios there are 4 types. One is 1 to 1, 1 to many to 1, almost exactly opposite to this, that's it. Then many to many, m to n. 1 to 1, 1 to many to 1 and many to many, that's it. Like this we are having 4 different types of cardinality ratios. Basically this indicates the how many instances of this left hand side entity type connected with the how many instances of another entity type through a relationship type, that we can represent it with the help of this cardinality ratio. The name itself is indicating 1 to 1, that means one instance of left hand side entity type is connected with what? Only one instance of, maximum of only one instance of another entity type through the relationship type. What about this one? One instance of this entity type is connected with what? Any number of instances of other entity type, or we can say more than one, any number, n number of instances. Here what? N instances connected with what? Only one instance of other entity type through a relationship type. What about this one? Many to many, and many instances connected with only one instance of other type, many instances of other any type we can call. But basically this m to n, many to many cardinality will be created especially in a way that means in the situation that one instance connected with many instances of other entity type through a relationship type when we read it from left to right. But when we read it from right to left, when one instance of this entity type connected with many instances of this entity type through a relationship type, then that we call by name 1 to many from this end. And when we read it from right to left, then it gives us a many to 1 from this end. 1 to many and many to 1. 1 to many, then again 1 to many from this end. Then 1 to many from this end. So both forms what? Many to many. At least many will have in each reading, at least to a one side, then that becomes what? Many to many, consolidated, right? Consolidatedly we call by name what? Many to many cardinality, that one. Let's take one small example with respect to each and everything. Let's assume, guys, one instance connected with only one instance of other entity type. We know that there could be many countries. Let's assume I am recording all country details, right? How each country is identified. Could be most of the time country having a name and country having a flag, many other things, right? So what all the rivers of that country, also things I am recording, and I am recording the prime ministers of that country. Let's assume a country always will make use of these uppercase letters, especially in writing the attribute, entity type names, right? Then after this, it's all over. Let me take out. Country having a presidents or prime ministers, whichever you want, you can take. Let's assume presidents. President having a name, let's assume president name. President having an age. Each president I am identifying based on president ID. Could be possibility that we might have two names, right? Two similar names. Let's assume I am making use of PID so that I'll underline it. Then each country is identified based on country name. We may not have two countries with the same name. Let's assume country name as a key attribute. Then country having a area, this also be there. Country having a population. Those things I'll record. And this country connected with president, and one more, most of the time we have seen that one country always having only one president, one with 1. It's an indication that we can write one instance country having president. One country having one president. And all presidents, as what we have recorded here, all are connected to at least any one of the country, Yes. Then all countries having a president, let's assume I can write. Then let's assume few of my friends might have a question like this. So there are few countries, still the elections are going on. During that time, country names are present, but no president names, right? During that time, it becomes what? Partial. It's all about the assumption. But if any president names, if we are having in the president entity type, then if any president instances are present, then definitely it will be connected with what? At least any one of these country entities, So for that, I can write this as total, and from this end could be a partial one. And every country having what? Only one president. And one president belongs to what? Only one country. This we know that, right? So let's assume how I can represent it with the help of set theoretic notation. Let me take up this cardinality ratio representation. These two are the sets where it represents a country set C1, C2, C3. Let's assume 3 n instances I am having. Here I am having a president instance P1, P2 and P3, 3 instances, and each are connected with some relationship instance R1, R2, R3, you can give any name. So C1 connected with P1, C2 connected with P2, C3 connected with P3. You can write however you want depending upon the relationship, right? In this instance. Look at this one. One instance connected with what? Maximum of only one instance. So, and this we call by name 1-to-1, 1-to-1 cardinality. That's it. Here 1. From this end also, look at this one, connected with only one instance of this entity type, right? So this is what? 1-to-1 cardinality. In the same fashion, we'll try to give some name, some example for one-to-many. A country can have many parliament members, right? So that we can, many parliamentarians. Country having parliamentarians. One country can have many parliamentarians. That I can have. Let's assume. Parliamentarian ID, name, age, something you can record. So at this point of time, let's assume C1 is an India. Can connect it with what? Let's assume this is P5 instance. It becomes what? One country can have multiple parliamentarians. That means one instance connected with any number of instances of another entity type. So that this we represented with what? One-to-many. All parliamentarians at least belongs to any one of the country, right? So that there is a total participation. So this is what? One instance connected with what? Many instances of any number of instances of other entity type through this relationship type. This we call by name one-to-many. Suppose when we read it from this end, many parliamentarians belongs to what? One country. This becomes like this, when we read it from right to left, many, look at this one, P5 and P1, many parliamentarians belongs to what? One country, many to one. So we are having even one-to-one also. Yes, one-to-one also instances. But always we give more preference, especially when identifying these cardinalities is, so what is the maximum number of instances which are connected, right, with each instance of an entity type, right, to a relationship type with another entity type, right. So that we'll consider always. Look at this one. One-to-one is there, but what about this one? One connected with what? Multiple instance. So for that it becomes what? One-to-many from this end. And from this end, so many instances connected with what? One instance, many to one, this one. So let me go with writing an example for many to many. Last one, many to many cardinality. What it represents? One instance connected with what? Many instances of another entity type from this end, and one instance of that connected with what? Many instances of this entity type through a relationship type. then this we call by name many to many. Example, employee doing a project. Let's assume in a project there could be possibility that there are n number of employees working, because let's assume it's a group project. And one more, an employee can also be involved in multiple projects. A project can have many employees, and as well as an employee might involve in multiple projects, right? So this scenario I want to show here. So what are the two entity types we have identified? Employee and one more, project. So where each employee is identified based on what? The employee ID is a key attribute. I'll underline it. Then employee name, employee having a date of birth, this I'll record. Then project, my interested attributes or projects are identified based on what? Project number, having a name, and it could be carried out in some location. So all such things I'll record it here. Then they are connected with some relationship type that I'll make use here. What I said, employee working on a project. Employee works on project. I said one employee can work on many projects, and a project can contain many employees. Look at this one, guys. One to many from left to right reading, and from right to left reading, we said one project, in a single project there could be many employees are involved. And during that time this n might contain, even n represents what? Any number of instances. So for that, any number means in that any number list even one also be present, So for that I'll take out this one and I'll take out here also, because this n contains even this one also. So for that I'll make it as what? Many to many. That's it. So let me go with representing it with a set theoretic notation now. Two sets have written. This is employee set, works on set, and project entity types set. So let's assume employee set E1, E2 and E3. There could be any number of employees we might have. Let's assume for time being there are few employees may not be involved in any of the projects, so that it becomes at this point of time, during this time, this becomes what? Employee becomes having a partial participation with this project. And let's assume there are few projects just now started, but still they have not recruited any employees. At this point of time, even this project entry type also becomes what? A partial participation entry. It all depends on the assumption or the scenario as what we are having, right, in the requirement part. So let's assume this all W1, W2, W3, can give any name, user defined name for these relationships. And these are project entity types, entities. P2, P3, some instance I am writing, a number of instances. I said an employee working on many projects. Let's assume employee works on project 1, same employee works even on project 2, right? So one employee working on 2 projects. Let's assume E2 working on project P1 and E3. For everything you have to write one more relationship, never forget. What it shows, guys, look at this one. One employee, one instance connected with what? More than P1 and P2. One connected with what? More than one instance of another entity type. So for that, one to many from this end. And look at this one, P1 connected with what? E1, P1 connected with what? E2, and P1 connected with what? E3. We could have n number of instances. One instance connected with what? Any number of instances. So that it becomes what? One to many from this end, and one to many from this end. This becomes what? Many to many. Many instances of this entity type connected with what? Many instances of, that means any number of instances of other entity type to this relationship type, right? So then such cardinalities we called by name, cardinality we called by name many to many cardinality, right? Thank you guys. Thanks for your patience listening.